Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Bob Thomas, Superintendent of Knox County Schools, and it's great to see everyone this evening for our meeting. So just again, thank you for being here. Before we get started, I know we have a few of our school board members here. I'd like to introduce our school board members. So I think Miss Jennifer Owen, Miss Owen is okay in the back there, District 2. Okay, Mr. Daniel Watson, Mr. Watson is District 3, and Miss Virginia Babb, in the middle auditorium there, District 4, and Commissioner Dasha Lundy, okay, in the back, okay. So thank you all for being here. You may or may not know, but one of my top priorities as superintendent has been our work to eliminate disparities within our school district. And I'm very grateful to the Alliance for the Educational Equity Steering Committee for its support of this effort. As many of you know, the Alliance has undergone several changes this year. When we first started out, the meetings were not public meetings. There was no public forum. We did have community meetings, but the changes now are that we've opened the committee quarterly meetings to the public. We've created a public forum at those meetings so that we can hear input from the community. And we've organized a series of equity teams, which allows KCS staff and the community leaders to work together on very specific goals. And you'll hear more about that in breakout sessions and also from Mr. Langlois. At the same time, I believe the community meetings like this one, which has been hosted by the Alliance for several years, are a very important strategy for providing open dialogue. And I'm very grateful for the chance to continue this practice this evening. In just a moment, I'm going to outline how tonight's meeting will be structured, but first I want to highlight two women who've been tremendous leaders for our community. Toma Battle, I want to recognize Toma Battle and Rosa Marr. They're the co-chairs of the Alliance, and they've been instrumental in its work. Unfortunately, Rosa and Toma are not able to be with us tonight, so I want to publicly commend both of them for their commitment to our district and to the work of equity. With that, I'd like to briefly outline where we're headed tonight. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce Director of Advancement and Diversity, Nathan Langlois, to talk about the district's equity teams and the goals they're pursuing. Nathan will also be discussing a recent report that was created by the Tennessee Educators of Color Alliance, which had some very important insights about the experience of educators within our district, educators of color within our district, and how we can better support them. Next, our Disciplinary Hearing Authority, Brian Hartzell, will talk briefly about discipline data and how we're working to create a consistent reporting system to better analyze discipline disparities. Following Brian's report, we will move into breakout sessions, which will be for our equity team co-chairs to lead those sessions, and they will last for about 45 minutes. And then we'll briefly return to the auditorium just for some final remarks. Before I turn the microphone over to Mr. Langlois, I want to outline some meeting expectations. First, I want to emphasize the importance of mutual respect. One purpose of these community meetings is to allow the public to raise questions, to share what's working well, of course, and then to let us know how we can improve. While words of criticism are certainly acceptable and welcome, please refrain from making comments of a personal nature. I'm also asking that you please hold your questions for the breakout sessions. In a room this size, it's difficult sometimes to have a constructive dialogue, and we have created these breakout sessions to allow more focused conversation about specific topics. Our commitment to you this evening is that we have an open dialogue. If we're not able to answer a specific question tonight, we plan on publishing a summary document on our website with additional answers. And with that, I'd like to introduce Nathan Langlois at this time and ask him to say a few words about our equity teams and the recent report from TECA.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I appreciate it. Again, told you, oh, okay, I thought it was not working. Sorry about that. I actually started with 5 slides. I think I'm up to about 25 now, so I'll get through these quickly, but I've been tasked with telling you about the equity teams of the district. So we have 6 different equity teams. Each of them is aligned to a piece of the district's strategic plan. Those areas of focus are academics, communications, discipline, school culture, staff development, and supports. The academic goals, and this goes along with the academic team, are to share Black, Hispanic, Native American students, or to get our Black and Hispanic and Native American students achieving at higher percentiles. So that's up there. We want our percentage of economically disadvantaged students scoring proficient or advanced on Algebra 1 to increase from 4% to 35% by 2024. And we want to achieve parity between student enrollment and student success in advanced academic programming by 2024. And so as you guys break out in these breakout groups, they'll give you a lot more information about how they're actually going to do these things. But these are the goals that each of these different equity teams has set forth. The communications team, their goals are to increase digital engagement by Spanish-speaking families, increase awareness and knowledge of KCS among Spanish-speaking families, consult the community about communication needs and challenges, and decrease language barriers for non-English speaking families. The discipline team is focused on informing and updating policies and practices, reducing the suspension rate and instructional days missed from school when students are punished, and working to enhance and improve the alternative school program experience within the district. Our school culture team is focused on embedding culturally responsive practices in all areas of KCS systems and structures to create accessible and inclusive environments for all staff, students, and families. And they're also going to utilize effective strategies to reduce incidences of chronic absenteeism within all state identified groups, as there is a direct correlation between students' regular school attendance and their academic success. The staffing team is working on partnering with UTK and the Knox Ed Foundation on a youth educator cohort to support diversity within the Knox County schools. We conducted an inclusion study with the Tennessee Educators of Color Alliance. Okay, that's very colorful. And we did that to identify 3-year recruitment goals. And we also want to increase partnership impacts and develop outreach and collaboration efforts with HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities, and Hispanic serving institutions to increase retention and provide professional development for educators of color within the district. And finally, our last team, our student supports team, is working on having 70% of students with disabilities will spend at least 80% of their instructional time in a general education setting. Achievement among English language learners will increase by 3%. But we're having a hard time with the slideshow. Increase the graduation rate and post-secondary preparation, such as ACT and CTE supports for students that need it, and increase family engagement in supports such as kindergarten readiness, enrollment, and supportive community resources. So again, as you guys go to your breakout sessions, you can ask more questions about these specific goals and how the district is going about meeting these goals. So now for the part you're probably all here for, because you're going to talk about a lot of that as you go to your breakout sessions. I want to talk to you about the recent work that we've done with TECA, and TECA is the Tennessee Educators of Color Alliance. The goal of our work was to understand the experiences of educators of color within the Knox County schools. Why? The why is because it's part of our strategic plan. We want more educators of color in our district. We also want the experiences of those educators of color in our district to be good so that they'll stay in our district, and so we can also bring in more educators of color in the future. So the why is really our strategic plan and meeting the goals of our strategic plan. And so the ones that circled up here is, obviously, we wanted to start our partnerships with HBCUs and HSIs, which is something that we're working on. But the real thing is we want to increase the percentage of certified staff of color in the district. And you can see that there are some pretty lofty goals that we've set in the years to come. Who? The Knox Education Foundation is actually the benefactor of this entire study, needs assessment, and that's several organizations. I don't have to go into all that. Hopefully you know who they are. TECA is the Tennessee Educators of Color Alliance. They actually conducted the focus groups and interviews with the educators of color in the district to give us their findings. And then finally, us, KCS, our Human Resources Department, we were initiating partner. So all three of us worked together to make this work come about. So what were the recommendations? And this study, Renee, this study has been put on our website, correct? The TECA study? Josh? Okay. So if you go to our website, you can see the entire report. You can read through it yourselves. I'm just going to sort of summarize what the recommendations were. So the recommendations were, 1, establish affinity groups. Many educators of color feel isolated and unacknowledged. Affinity groups would allow educators of color to meet, build, and strengthen relationships and have an intentional voice in what's going on in the district. So that was an ask from all these focus groups. They specifically wanted affinity groups in the district. 2, institute inclusive hiring practices. Review how existing hiring practices align with district goals and implement strategies to increase educator diversity. So that was the second recommendation. The third is track human capital data. Track applicants and roles applied for, hires and placements, and who's leaving, analyze and focus on administrative statistics. So our data is actually telling us a lot, right? If we're bringing in a certain number of educators of color, but we're losing more than we're bringing in, obviously there's a gap. We also have collected data and asked them, why are you leaving? Why don't you want to be in the district? What seem to be the barriers that are holding you up from finding the success that you want? So this type of data is really important as we try to increase the diversity of our educators in our district. Number 4, invest in development. Support professional development, training, and leadership development for educators of color. By increasing our educators' impact, we increase their value in our schools and the communities with which they interact. So a lot of the educators of color sort of felt like they weren't getting some of the same opportunities as their peers, and they felt that that was holding them up. So one of the things that we are trying to commit to is how do we give them those experiences so that when they actually apply for those positions, like a principalship, they are prepared and they can get those jobs in our district. Number 5, expand leadership opportunities. Participants want equitable access to leadership opportunities. TECA suggests that we keep data points on these efforts and that we commit to qualified educators of color being consistently under consideration. So again, and when you guys go and read this report, but also if you look at the research, it is important that our staffs be reflective of our student populations. And that has a lot of, somebody snapping. Keep snapping, yeah. Okay. There's a lot of benefit to that, and then there's a lot of, I guess, negative consequences that can occur if we don't get to that point. And finally, the educators that were surveyed and talked to want the district to launch a mentoring program. Not that we don't have mentoring programs, but this one would be specific to some of the issues that educators of color have been dealing with. Educators want to connect and network, and experienced educators want to pay it forward and have a voice. Mentoring will help people feel connected and improve retention. A lot of people ask me, well, how do we retain folks? One of the biggest things you can do to retain folks in your district is to have a strong mentoring program. Period. You got to sort of invest in the next generation that's going to be taking over leadership and doing the things that our district needs done. So those were the specific recommendations from TECA to the district. Now, next slide, please. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the district's works in these areas already, just so you get an idea of, although these are a lot of concerns and these were things that they want addressed, the district is doing some things. One of the things that also came out in the study, and I'll be totally transparent about it, is we didn't do a very good job, and we don't do a very good job of communicating what we're doing. So that's another big piece of this. So as far as recruitment partnerships, what are some of the things that we are doing as a district to recruit educators of color into the district? We have several grow your own initiatives. We have TAs to teachers. That's basically where we've asked teaching assistants if they're interested in becoming teachers, and if they have a bachelor's degree. We work with UTK. We also work with Lincoln Memorial University to get them into a licensure program so that they can go from being a TA to a teacher in a classroom. So that cohort is currently ongoing. Right now, we should get about 15 to 20 educators that are going to come out of that, and then we will try to employ them in the district. Another program we're doing is the Youth Educator program. This program is designed to identify students of color at the University of Tennessee Knoxville's 3 flagship high schools, which are Austin East, Central, and Fulton. Basically, these students get to take pre-teaching classes in high school, then they get admitted to the University of Tennessee, they finish their licensure, and then we hire them when they become teachers and they graduate from the University of Tennessee. That program is currently on pace, and we should have our first cohort of students next year. And they will actually attend courses at the University of Tennessee, so it's a college experience while they're in high school to get them used to that type of environment and that workload, and then they'll get admitted to the University of Tennessee and finish out that experience. Another grow your own that we're doing is called the Relay Teaching Residency. It's a cohort of educators selected from KCS that hold an undergraduate degree that want to pursue a master's in teaching. It's a 6-term program, and the initial year is free for the cohort. They're being selected right now, so they're going through the interview process right now. And it's an initiative between the Knox County Schools, the Knox Education Foundation, and UTK. I mean, not UTK, but the Relay Teaching Residency Program. And finally, I brought this up before, but another thing we're doing under Recruitment Partnerships is we are trying to get a teacher residency program started in KCS. We would partner with an HBCU or HSI or one of our EPP partners, and basically we would ask those teachers to come and work for us for a certain amount of time, and in exchange we would give them incentives and support. They are very successful programs. You can look up the research. I'm not going to go into all that, but all those things, the Grow Your Own programs and this, are all designed to help us bring more educators of color into our district and keep them in our district for a long period of time. Leadership opportunities. I'm going to get through this quick. I know I don't have a lot of time. Right now, we've generated a list of educators of color that have expressed an interest in leadership positions within the district, and that has allowed us to intentionally encourage educators of color to apply for leadership positions within the district. Also, the Ford Next Generation Learning Program is coming on board. There'll be a lot of leadership opportunities with that we're encouraging these folks to apply for. Obviously, when we get the mentorship program going, in addition to this, other stuff I've been talking about, we can really encourage educators of color to apply for assistant administrator positions, assistant principal positions, and executive principal positions within the district. And going on to the next one, resource allocation. Just so you guys know, the big thing you need to know is that we as a district continue to resource our at-risk schools at a proportionally higher level than we do our other schools. Affinity groups. The goal is that it will allow individuals to connect with educators that have common experiences and needs, network and support each other, and share perspectives on district initiatives, strategies, and planning. So affinity groups have been shown to improve retention of new educators and old educators. The work has to be intentional, and again, this is something that TECA would really like to work with us on as we roll these out. If affinity groups, just so you guys know, isn't something I came up with, or this is something that these folks in the survey specifically asked for. This is something these teachers said, we need this if you really want us to feel supported and stay in the district. And the other thing it will do is allow for the sharing of unique perspectives. And it doesn't cut anybody out. Anybody can be a part of any affinity group, right? It's not, hey, this is our group, you're not welcome. No, this is an affinity group. They're going to talk about some things, share some perspectives. Anybody can be a part of any affinity group. So hopefully we'll get these things going in our district soon. And finally, salary incentives. We are going to have a salary increase this year. Obviously, it'll be a 4% salary increase for certified staff, and it'll be a 8% increase for classified staff. So that's quite a big step for classified folks, which have not been, if you ask them, they're not making enough money, okay? I bet you if you ask anybody, they're not making enough money, but an 8% raise is pretty good. Our 4% raise for all the other folks is in addition to the 4% raise that we had the year before. So the district is really trying to increase the salaries of teachers, and also that is an incentive to attract people from other places. We also offer incentives to hard-to-staff areas and special education positions within the district. One of my asks is that we try to expand that to all positions, but we'll get to that later. And we do use extended contracts to increase professional development opportunities at schools of highest need in our district. So that's pretty much my presentation. So what I'm going to do at this point is turn it over to Mr. Brian Hartzell, and he'll talk to you guys about discipline.
Thank you, Mr. Langlois. Good evening. I know you all are here for the breakout sessions, but prior to going to the breakout session, and forgive me if I move, just bear with me a little bit. I'm a little nervous, as always. Before going to the breakout session, Mr. Thomas wanted, and the equity team wanted us to discuss some of the changes that we've made to be more transparent and whatnot with discipline and outcomes in the Knox County schools. At this time, if you are a member of the equity discipline team, would you please stand? Thank you. We are comprised of not only just Knox County employees, but also we've included community folks. My co-chair is a community person, Miss Patricia Hammer, who is here. She's my co-chair on this committee. We are working hand in hand with other committee members to, be more transparent. We've heard the message that we've not, quote unquote, been transparent with our information. We've not been consistent with our information. So therefore, those are things that moving forward, we'll be working on. As up on the screen there, you can see our goals are to be more consistent with our reporting, also more transparent with the, the data, the information, and then a new factor that we use, a key metric that we will use moving forward will be the risk ratio. All right, and the key factor in understanding the risk ratio is 1 and below is good, 1 and above is not so good, or room for improvement. Let's say it that way. All right, so go back one more slide for me, please. What we've done is outlined on this slide here, the dotted line here. We're going to go to the next slide, and it will show you. We'll blow it up a little further. We have our 6 different ethnicity groups within Knox County. Here on the large screen, we pulled it down to our 3 major ethnicity groups, and you see the dotted line represents that risk ratio of 1. And remember what I said, if you're looking at the screen here to your left, 1 below is good, and then anything above 1 is not so good, room for improvement. I will pause for a second and just let you all look at that. And as you look at it, there's nothing now up on that screen that stands out to you, is there? Basically, just looking at that, it doesn't represent all the actions that's taking place in Knox County or anything like that. It just shows that we are, as a system, it appears that we are punishing black students more so than other ethnicity groups within our system. And if you look at that consistently, every group is pretty much being disciplined the same year after year after year. I don't know if you all can see the numbers there, but for 17-18, we was at 2.3, 18-19, somewhere around probably 2.0, 19-20, 2.4, 20-21, 2.1, and as of January of this or December of this year, we're at 2.3. But also keep in mind that the last 2 years have been, somewhat different years. In 1920, we were only in school for roughly 5 to 6 months, and then in 2021, I believe it was like 30% of our kids were doing virtual learning. All right, next what we're going to do is give you a little example, a hypothetical situation with this. If we got in Knox County 2,000 white kids that were suspended, $4,200 total students suspended, 4,800 total population for our white students, 61,000 total students in Knox County. A breakdown would that be 47.6% of our suspensions were white kids. That means 53% were our other ethnicities in the county. 78.7% will serve as our white population, and then the ratio number will be 0.6. So with a 0.6 ratio, that means that our white students here in Knox County are doing pretty good as it relates to being disciplined. All right, once again, I know that we gave a quick synopsis of this here. During the breakout session, you'll be able to ask questions and we can dialogue back and forth as it relates to risk ratio, more information as it relates to our discipline numbers, as far as number of students that's been suspended thus far this year, and also reasoning for those suspensions. At this time, I will turn it back over to Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Nate, for the reports. As you can see, there's lots of work still to be done, tremendous amount of work, and you only heard just a bit of it here. There'll be more in the sessions, the focus sessions that we'll have in just a minute. So, I'm not pleased with the progress we've made. We made this a goal. We have worked at it. Of course, we had some interference with COVID that sort of set us back just a little bit in some of our efforts, but certainly something I'm not pleased with. We certainly haven't made the gains and strides that I was hopeful that we make, and I'll take responsibility for that because people have worked hard. Our teachers have worked hard. Our administrators have worked hard. It's been extremely stressful over the last couple of years and you know this, it's been that way for everybody. So, but what I'm hopeful with our equity teams and the goals that they have, that we're going to start making progress, better progress with what you're seeing, with the slides that you've seen and what you'll hear in the focus session. So at this time, it's time to move to the focus session. So we've got the locations posted here on the screen. Let you look at that for just a minute, and we'll have some folks out in the hallway to help direct you if you need some help with finding where you want to go. And we'll return in about 45 minutes for a brief wrap up, and then I look forward to seeing you then. So, and then also hearing feedback. So thank you. There, handouts available at the sign-in table, and you may have questions. If you can have a notepad, write these the contact information down, aee@knoxschools.org and knoxschools.org/AEE. If we didn't answer your question tonight, we're going to post the summaries at the website, so check periodically for that. If you get home and later on you think of, well, I sure wished I asked this question, then go ahead and ask it. Just email us and we'll respond too. So after thinking about what you've heard tonight, you might want to ask additional questions, and that's fine. We hope you've got some information tonight. Hope the feedback was good. Hope you gave us some feedback. Criticisms, like I say, are welcome. If you know of anything we're doing good, hopefully you were able to share that too, because I think we're doing a lot of things that are good in our school district. Right now is a time of transition in our school district, and I firmly believe that Knox County Schools will continue the work that's been done, and hopefully we'll see improvements. All of our students deserve everything that we can provide for them to make them successful in school. So regardless of their color, regardless of disability, regardless of language, regardless of economic standing, all of our students deserve the very best that we can provide for them to help them to be successful. And that's what Knox County Schools, I firmly believe this, that's what Knox County Schools will continue to do, and what our Board of Education will do, because they're committed to this. And want to thank you again for being here. The work that we're doing is hard work, but it's the right work, and we're going to continue with that. So thank you for being here. Safe travels home this evening, and again, thank you so much for coming tonight. And please do feel free to email us and let us know any questions that you have, and check the website just to be sure that you get the information that we said we would provide to you. So thank you again so much, and hope that you have a great rest of the evening. So thank you. Bye.